Hey guys, it is USS Wisconsin 94, and today I was going to talk a little about the update 3.3 Typhoon that's coming out. And we had some great news. Now we finally get the CAX. We finally get the Centurion Action 10, which replaces the FE4202, which is becoming the Tier 8 premium medium tank for the British line. But there is something that's even more important than that. It is the legendary Chieftain Mk.6. This is actually coming to console before PC. This is absolutely insane. I cannot believe that this tank is actually coming in the game. From the looks of it, the update is going to be coming out in a couple of days, so probably on the 15th, which is going to be a Thursday. So, Wargaming might be releasing information. Right now, it is the 13th. I'm basically doing this video for you guys and for myself, just so I can get a little bit more information. There's a couple other things about the update, but right now we're going to be talking about the Chieftain and the Chieftain T95, which is the Tier 8 British medium tank. But right now, we are going to talk about the Chieftain Mk.6. The Chieftain Mk.6 is the British, as you see, the Tier 10 heavy tank. It is not replacing the FE215B. It is not replacing that. Interesting. It's an interesting decision by Wargaming. I don't know why, but it's their game, so whatever. Right now, as you can see, these are the stats for PC, and from the looks of it, we're gonna have the same stats as PC, which is fine, which is okay by me, because it looks absolutely fun as hell to play. Now, I'm gonna be looking at some other things like armor. Unfortunately, because I am a pleb and I do not have recording software on my PC to record things like that, I'm unfortunately gonna have to show you guys like this with these little pictures, which do not help at all, unfortunately. So I apologize for that right now. But let's get into it. As you can see, some of these black bars right there, those are 350 millimeters of armor. That's right, 350 millimeters of armor. That is over 10 inches of armor right there. That is insane. The red is at 250. The orange is red is 215. The orange is 175. And the little spot above the gun is 140. And it goes lower, so on and so forth, down to about mid-50s. The lower plate is 76 millimeter, which we all know, British tanks, absolutely horrible lower gun. English is hard. Horrible lower plates, especially for the heavy line, for like the either the Chieftain, the Carnarvon, the Conqueror, or the FE215B. Now, as right on the upper plate, it says 85 millimeters, which is absolutely horrible. But if I put in the stats for an E5 versus the Mk.6, I can see a lot of red on the left. It's a lot harder than I thought. Basically, in the middle of the tank, all the way from the wheels going to the middle to the driver's port, and then to both sides. The bottom part is gonna be pretty easy to pen because, well, it's like 100 millimeters. Anything is gonna pen that. Another tricky spot is gonna be the spot above the gun. That's 140 millimeters. What it comes out with AP from the E5s, 120, 258 millimeters a pen. It comes out to about 220-ish millimeters of effective armor. So things like tier 8s and 9s are going to have a little bit of trouble with them, with APs. It's going to be a little bit of a problem. But other than that, it's not going to be that much of a deal for tier 10s. Especially if they're shooting, especially something like a TD, like an E4, which just shooting AP is going to go right through that. Now, another weakness it has is as we all can see, the big tumor on the top, the commander's hatch on top of it, that is also going to be a weak point. It's a lot of viewpoints up there as well, but it's not that big of a deal, fortunately. Another weak spot is going to be on the right side of the turret. As you can see, there's a little viewport, and down that is a little orange spot that's also at 140 millimeters thick. That is also a weak spot, so it's going to be pretty easy for any tank about 240 millimeters of pen to go through that. So basically, an E5 is going to have not that much of a problem. Now, this is where it becomes a little interesting. The frontal part of the tank is absolutely amazing, but then you get to the side, and that is where things really start to have a problem. You then have an effective armor that is basically non-existent on the side. You have 38 millimeters of armor on the side for the lower spot and 50 on the upper spot, not where the spaced armor is. That do not side scrape in this thing versus anything, basically anything that's over a 120. Do not side scrape against it because you are not going to win that. Anybody who understands about overmatching and things like that is going to understand that you will overmatch and you will go through that, and it's not going to be that much of a problem to go through. So unless if it's something like a tank or it's higher caliber, like the 107 on the something like the KV4 or the 105s or anything below that, you can side scrape fairly well against it, but anything else is going to have some problems. Now we look at the rear of the tank, and you thought American armor was bad in the rear? No. This is horrible. 25 millimeters in the rear and 30 on the turret. That is just horrible. Do everything you can to make sure no one gets behind you, especially something like a T49 or a tank that has an HE round or any kind of tank that has HE, because they will pen and it will hurt and you will cry. Many people have known when I played my T49, when I get behind them and I derp them for 900, they're going to realize that something is wrong. Now, as we can see, this is going to be basically the new tank that we get, which is going to be great. We do not have the stats on it yet, but from the looks of it, as you can see from here, it's probably going to be the same stats as they are right here. Unfortunately, it says you can see the rate of fire. That is completely wrong. The armor inspector guys, they kind of messed that up, so the rate of fire doesn't really match what the loading time is for some reason. I don't know why, but oh well. Then we got another tank called the Chieftain T95, which is going to be the new hero tank that's coming out this week as well from that new World War I mode event that's coming out as well. You can either buy it or earn it. I personally am going to buy it because at 300 points and all these other things with it, that, unfortunately, is just too much. There's too many points, and I think I'd rather just buy it. And I'm looking on my phone, because that's the only way I can look it up. It says 100 years of trench warfare mode. We're basically going to be fighting a Mark 1. And another way that you can earn the tank, the Chieftain T95, which I'll show you right here, is the Chieftain T95. The Chieftain T95 is an American and British kind of combo where we have the Chieftain hull on the bottom and the T95 turret on the top. But it's going to be with a 90 millimeter and it's going to be a Tier 8 British medium tank. This tank also has a serious amount of armor on it. I'm looking right here, and armor inspector just went derp and crashed on me again. So sorry about that. But from what I've seen, it's gonna be over a freakishly huge amount of armor on the thing. If it'll load the tank, there we go. I look on the tank, and it also has 355, where those black bars are. That is 355 millimeters worth of armor. The second part is 254, 165, and it drops down all the way on the turret is about 50 millimeters on the fronts. Unfortunately, commander hatch, as you can see, that is going to be a big weak spot. This tank does play up to tier 10, so you've got to be careful about showing people that tumor on top of it. So be careful about that. And also is that you might be overmatched by some tier 10 TDs as well on the top of the turret, but usually they're not going to be high enough to reach that, so you don't have to worry about it as much. As you can see, these are the stats on PC. They have shown the stats for it on the console as well. It's basically the same effectively the same thing as it is on PC, it is console and whatnot. But it's really just there anyway. So how to earn this tank, you basically have to do to earn this is from the news article. So, and I quote, to earn the Centurion T95 free, you'll need to rack up a total of 300 points and 3 time-locked events, each having 100 earnable points. The first one is going to be the 16th. The second one is going to start on the 19th, and the third one is going to start on the 23rd. You cannot lose points in this event. Also, if you decide to purchase a tank prior to completing the fight for op, all unused points are transferred to the Unleashed, which is basically lets you get a little Centennial medal. Basically just a little medal. It also says event boost earns. Placing the top 3 damage dealers on your team in a battle in the trench warfare mode or in the multiplayer in the Centennial T95 tank and earn a bonus. And earn a event boost. Excuse me. You get an event boost every time you meet these conditions. Event boosts can only apply to multiplayer battles and grant some random amount of points. Event boost will only be consumed after activation once a player has placed in the top 3 damage dealers in a multiplayer battle. In addition, if you buy the tank from the store, you'll benefit from times 2 crew XP in all battles during the fights and random loot drops in every victory you have. That is basically what it says. It's going to be from basically the 16th to the 25th. To the 25th is when it ends, unfortunately. So that is basically what it is for that. Now we have the 3.3 update. And this is where things get pretty interesting. World of Tanks, the console devs have released an information on things like this. We now, somehow, we have 2 new maps. It is called the Trifval Ridge. I don't know what that is. I think it's French, but I don't really know. It is set in France. It is a larger version of the trench warfare map that you get from the Mark 1 battles. It is a 1x2, 1.2 by 1.2 kilometer map featuring the events map, but it's going to be in the random battles. The next map is going to be Pacific Island Typhoon. This is another, basically a dynamic weather kind of map where you basically lose all your view range and signal range and things like that. It looks interesting, but we'll see about it later. The next one is multiple consumable use. And I quote from this, it says, ever wonder why you can't use multiple repair or first aid kits on the sand tank? Now you can add multiple select consumables to suit your specific game styles. You'll still only have 3 consumable slots, but now you can equip certain consumables twice. Note, English. Premium nation-specific consumables such as food can only be equipped once. For the regular consumables, the following can be equipped twice. The small repair kit, the small first aid kit, the manual fire extinguisher, Lend-Lease oil, and the quality oil will all stack. You'll all be able to equip them twice. The premium consumables can also be equipped twice. Large repair kit, large first aid kit, Their bonuses do not stack, so you're not going to get a 20% increase to your repair speed or 20% critical damage, minus 20% less critical damage to your tank. You also get an another automatic fire extinguisher. Bonus doesn't stack. Only one will set off if you have it on, if you're set on fire. Now we get something else that's even more amazing, and I can't wait for it as well. We now get an armor and component viewer in-game. What it says is we're super excited about this popular request. The details menu in the garage now includes additional information on your vehicles, including new garage stat ratings, a component viewer, armor viewer, and more. The stat rating is basically what you see here. The new stat rating bars on the right side of the garage screen rates your vehicle from 1 to 100 in 5 categories: firepower, survivability, mobility, concealment, and spotting. The stat bars also display your vehicle's current rating in the whites and max potential rating in the light gray, as you can see, if you can see. I apologize if you can't see. However, note, these ratings only take mounted packages into account. Bonuses from consumables, equipment, crew skills, perks, etc. are not included. That is a little bit of a disappointment, but hopefully in the next update after this one they'll do that. Pressing the details button on the Y, pressing the detail button, the Y button that you can see on the bottom left, will bring you to the module viewer where you can see a breakdown of what items are used to determine your vehicle stat rating. Firepower, standard shell damage, near penetration at 100 meters, and its reload time. Survivability, armor depth and hit points. Mobility, max speed and engine power. Concealment, stationary and moving. The spotting is view range and your signal range. Next up is the module viewer right here, as you can see here. The module viewer tab. This tab allows you to select different modules on your vehicle. This will highlight the module, display its location, and provide additional stats about the module. As you can see, it's showing the engine of the Centurion Action 10 of its Rolls-Royce Meteor TTSC. It also says, ever wondered why you don't set enemies on fire enough as you like, or why you keep getting ammo wrecked in your favorite tank? Use the module viewer to learn where key components are located. That is absolutely wonderful, Wargaming. Thank you for adding this into the game. Unfortunately, they will only allow you to have tanks in the garage that you own. So any tank that is basically any tank that you don't own, you will not be able to view, which is unfortunate. I hope they will be able to add that in soon. Next is the armor viewer tab. This tab shows overall armor of the vehicle, individual armor piece, range, or viewing armor of a certain thickness. If a vehicle does not have any armor inside armor range, it cannot be selected. Also says, should you really angle tanks like the IS-3 110, just how much additional protection do you get by angling the Tiger 1? Review all that data with the armor viewer. There's also some notes on here as well, but I'm already at 20 minutes, so I'm not going to show all that, so sorry about that. But I will say the download sizes for the update is Xbox One comes at 2.5 gigabytes. Xbox 360 comes at 923 megabytes, and the PlayStation 4 comes at 2.4 gigabytes, for anyone who wants to know. That is the update. That is basically what we're going to be getting in the next update. We are getting the Chieftain Mk.6, a Tier 10 British Heavy, the Centurion Action 10, the Tier 10 British Medium, and we're also getting the events celebrating the 100 years of tanks from the Mark 1 event, and also getting the Chieftain T95 Tier 8 British Medium. So, I guess that's everything I got for you guys today. So this is USS Wisconsin 94. Later.